it costs 500 won, around 50 cents. And a coin exchange place is on the right of the building. And we are going to watch a short video at the briefing room, but I'm not sure whether we can see it right now. So I will check it and I will let you know. And please back to the bus until 14:20. 14:20.
End of separation, beginning of unification. Oh yeah.
DVD. 5 minutes later, please come to in front of building.
Yes, ma'am.
Where?
Look at that. Look at that. Need a ticket to Pyongyang, please. Sold out?
감사합니다.
감사합니다. Slow day today. Slow? Slow? Not too many tourists? Not too much? Holy shit, man. This is the line. So this one, Imjingak. Excuse me.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the United Nations Command and the soldiers of the United Nations Command Security Battalion, Joint Security Area, I would like to welcome you to Camp Boniface. Now, the United Nations Command is a multinational coalition force that monitors the Korean Armistice and helps maintain regional stability throughout Northeast Asia. The Security Battalion was established in the spring of 1952, originally consisting of 5 officers and 10 enlisted men. We reached our peak strength towards the end of the Korean War with over 1,900 soldiers assigned. Now, to place your tour into better context, I will briefly review the political history of the Korean Peninsula. Prior to World War II, around 1910, the Japanese had colonized the peninsula. In the final days of World War II, Soviet Union accepted the surrender of the Japanese north of the 38th parallel. The United States accepted it south of the 38th parallel. Now, the 38th parallel was never meant to be a division of country nor a political boundary. It was merely, established to designate areas of responsibility. So, this man in the spring of 1948 was elected first president of the Republic of Korea, Dr. Syngman Lee. In the fall of that same year, Kim Il-sung was appointed as the first premier over communist North Korea. He would reign for approximately 46 years until he was succeeded by his eldest son, Kim Jong-il. He would reign for approximately 17 years until he would be succeeded by his youngest son. He has the reins presently, so this marks 3 generations of Kim family rule over communist North Korea. Also, it's the only 2 father to son successions in a communist country ever. So despite best efforts and negotiations, on the 25th of June 1950, the North Koreans launched a massive surprise attack. The ensuing war would last over 2 years and cost more than 3 million people their lives. In the first month of the attack, KPA forces were able to capture most of the peninsula. However, they were halted by the United Nations Command forces around the city of Busan. Within the next 4 months, the United Nations Command launched the Incheon landings. Were able to push the North Koreans back to the Yalu River, or the border between China and North Korea. At which point, the Chinese entered the war and aided the North Koreans in their war-fighting efforts. The fighting began to stabilize around the 38th parallel. However, a permanent settlement had not yet been reached. So, on the 27th of July, 1953, commanders of the United Nations Command, the Korean People's Armies, and the Chinese People's Volunteers met and signed an armistice, or a ceasefire. This agreement is still in effect today, and the borders remain relatively the same ever since. Note the white dotted line. This is the Military Demarcation Line, or MDL. Under the provisions of the armistice, all commanders were required to pull their troops back 2,000 meters from their last point of hostile contact, thus creating a 4-kilometer wide, 241-kilometer long Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ. Note Seoul and its location in relationship to the Joint Security Area and the MDL itself. Here at Camp Boniface, we are only 400 meters away from the southern boundary of the Demilitarized Zone, and only 400 meters, 2.4 kilometers away from the MDL itself. Up in the top left-hand corner is going to be the city of Kaesong. This was the site of the armistice talks prior to being moved to the Panmunjom, or what we call the Joint Security Area. Though the Demilitarized Zone has become one of the most militarized locations in the world, the MDL itself houses no fortifications. It is simply a series of 1,292 black and yellow panel markers that stretch from coast to coast spaced at 100 to 200 meter intervals. On the southern side, you'll see Hangul on the top and English on the bottom. And on the northern side, you'll see Hangul on the top and Chinese on the bottom. Within the Joint Security Area, this MDL is more clearly defined by these white stakes that stand at 1 meter in height and are spaced at 10 meter intervals, further extending on a conference row bisecting each building with a 17 by 5 inch concrete slab. This is the area we'll visit today. Notice how the MDL winds its way through the middle of the Demilitarized Zone, creating a finger inside the JSA. Upon arriving at checkpoint 3, you will be surrounded on 3 sides by communist North Korea. Now, we will begin our tour here at Camp Boniface, exiting out on the MSR, or main supply route, also known as Old Highway 1. For over 50 years, this was the only route that connected North and South Korea, and still the only route that we use to the JSA for any armistice-related events. On our way up there, Private Dinachik, myself, we will be able to point out such landmarks as Guard Post 240, Observation Post Alet, or OPO, Taesongdong, or Freedom Village, Imjingak, or Propaganda Village, the Swiss and Swedish Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission Camp, and the former Czech and Polish Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission Camp. I'll briefly review some of the landmarks that I just described. Now, first up is Taesongdong, or Freedom Village. The United Nations Command is in charge of implementing all civil affairs and providing security for this village. We do this through a security company that guards that village 24 hours a day. So, while they farm, they're protected. At night, they're protected. The people here farm large allocations of land and live in relatively modern homes. However, they do live under some pretty severe restrictions. They must be within the village limits by nightfall with the doors and windows locked by midnight. Its sister village, right across the MDL from it, about 1,800 meters, it's going to be Imjingak, or Propaganda Village. It received this nickname due to a large speaker system placed throughout the village that up until 2004 would broadcast propaganda 6 to 12 hours a day. This propaganda idolized Kim Jong-il to be a great leader and looked to persuade the villagers of Taesongdong and the rest of the Republic of Korea to defect to the so-called Village of Paradise. If one were to do so, they would find themselves rather lonely, though. We rarely see people here. The only people we see here work at the Kaesong Industrial Facility, maintain the upkeep of these buildings, which are mainly fake, and raise and lower this extremely large flag. It is one of the largest in the world with an approximate length of over 31 meters. Now, this flagpole is the second of 2 to ever stand in Imjingak. That's because in 1981, the Republic of Korea donated this flag and flagpole to the village of Taesongdong. This flagpole stood taller than the one in Imjingak, so the North Koreans quickly responded by building an even bigger flagpole. The one in Taesongdong stands at 100 meters in height, while the one in Imjingak stands at a whopping 160 meters. As we pass through Checkpoint Charlie today, I will be able to point out the road that leads to the Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission. Currently, there are 5 Swiss and 5 Swedish delegates. that live there year-round. This used to be made up of 4 host nations: the Czech Republic, the Polish, the Swiss, and the Swedish. The Czech Republic have decided to not come out anymore. The Polish come out biannually. The Swiss and Swedish, of course, as I said, are here year-round. These gentlemen here are charged with the investigation of any armistice-related violations that occur outside the demilitarized zone. Now, upon arriving at checkpoint 3, here's some of the major buildings I'll be able to point out to you, or Private Dino Czech will be able to point out to you. On the right is going to be the former Czech and Polish Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission camp. On the left is going to be North Korea's Peace Museum. We'll get to how ironic that name is later. Also visible from checkpoint 3 is the Bridge of No Return. Now, it received this nickname at the end of the Korean War due to Operations Big Switch and Operations Little Switch. This was a POW exchange in which soldiers were lined up on either side of the bridge and were told that they could cross in the country of their choosing. However, upon doing so, they could not be able to return, hence the name. Now, the United Nations Command returned about 82,000 POWs, and the North Koreans, or the KPA, the Chinese, returned about 13,000. The red box is where the Bridge of No Return is located on Southern Boundary Road. Now, up until 1976, this was a neutral location. So all the blue buildings you see belong to the United Nations Command, while all the red buildings belong to the KPA, or the North Koreans. Notice how the KPA took full advantage of this by building 4 communist guard posts on the southern side. You'll also notice that checkpoint 4 is surrounded on 3 sides by communist guard posts. Now, soldiers at checkpoint 3 had a hard time with visibility of soldiers at checkpoint 4. This is due to a large yellow poplar tree which once stood in the way. So, on August 18, 1976, a 5-man tree trimming detail along with a 12-man security force was dispatched to just trim the tree a little bit. Upon arriving, the North Koreans took quite an interest. Work did start about after 15 minutes. The North Koreans attacked. Now, they're sorely outnumbered, and I'll do my best to illustrate that to you right now. It's a little unclear, but down here, KPA grouped around a United Nations Command soldier is being kind of stomped out by about 7 KPA. Second example is the United Nations Command helmet. It's believed to have rolled off Captain Arthur Boniface's head as he was brutally axed in front of his own truck. Third is a KPA soldier clearly wielding an axe to the United Nations Command soldier, which is believed to be platoon leader, First Lieutenant Mark Barrett, who would also perish alongside Captain Arthur Boniface. They're honored up in the JSA. We'll be stopping at their memorial later. After this incident, a series of meetings were held, and it was decided that the MDO would separate the 2 guard forces. There were no incidents of violence up until November 23, 1984, when a Soviet citizen on a North Korean-sponsored tour dashed across the MDO in an attempt to defect to the free world. He would then be pursued by a KPA guard force. The United Nations Command would activate their quick reaction force, who were able to halt and outflank the North Korean main body. There were about 20 North Korean guards within the UNC Sunken Garden, which is right there. This firefight would last about 25 minutes, in which the KPA would sustain about 3 to 5 killed. I've read 5. And the United Nations Command would suffer 1 killed, which would be Corporal Zhang. He is honored outside the Freedom House. I'll point that out to you later. On our tour today, you will see KPA guards. I cannot stress enough that you do not communicate with them both verbally or non-verbally. Under the provisions of the armistice, as I said earlier, all combatants are required to wear these armbands. I'll reiterate, not an NP. North Koreans no longer do, so this is just another violation or provocation. The United Nations Command is also in charge of humanitarian operations to the north. We do this through repatriation of remains from the Korean War, as well as delivery of humanitarian aid to the north. We also guard and protect heads of states and delegates that come up here, such as former President of the United States, George W. Bush, former President of the Republic of Korea, Lee Pak, Prime Minister of New Zealand, John Key, and of course, Hillary Clinton and the Honorable Robert Gates. Just like these heads of states and dignitaries, you will be guarded by the same soldiers that they are. On the left is a Republic of Korea soldier, or ROK soldier. He serves about 21 months here. On the right is a United States infantryman. He serves about 12 months here. Both soldiers must meet and exceed an above average aptitude and have a clean military and civilian background to serve over here. So it is due to all this and the fact that we stand face to face with our enemies on a daily basis, the United Nations Command, the United States of America, and the Republic of Korea have given us our nickname, or our motto, which we so proudly state. Ladies and gentlemen, we truly are in front of them all.